Board Member Curtis, question?
Just for the sake of discussion, we
Yeah.
talk about affordable housing.
Yeah.
What are we talking about in terms of price of this housing? Between $600,000 and $700,000?
Well, the affordable that we're talking about here, the deed restricted affordable
Forget
housing.
that. Just the middle class. That you've got
Oh.
200 units out of all of these units. Put those aside. But if we took just the average, are we talking about between 700 and $1,000,001, $1,000,002?
Well, we don't know. What we do know is housing and when you look at what housing is being sold for in sort of the Alameda, Jack London Square area, it's selling sales price. So I'm not talking about rentals now. I'm talking about sales. Selling for about $500 a square foot.
Because if you look at the houses that sell on Otis Drive by the South Shore Center, little
Yep.
two-bedroom houses, 800 to $1,000,001.
Yeah.
So if we take a $700,000 house, you're talking about a payment of $3,500 plus insurance, plus this. So you're up around $4,000 a month. And I listen to these young people talk about all of these houses being available. The low cost housing project at Sturgill, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
That the number of units that were there versus applications, 40-1.
That's right.
I mean, one person got it out of 40. So,
Right.
we talk about this, and nobody puts it into perspective in terms of how much of the demand will these low-cost housing units make versus how much is made in terms of houses that somebody's got to be making anywhere upwards of $150,000 to $175,000 a year to be able to afford these houses. And this is the point that I sit here thinking about, because everybody's saying, we're going to get to be able to go into these houses because we're building these. How many houses are we building? 105, 200 houses? 200 houses, and the same ratio is 8,000 people for 200 houses, That's the part that frustrates me.
Yeah, no, it is frustrating. It's a frustrating situation, but building no housing at all makes the situation
I'm not
worse.
saying no housing. I'm just saying that we've got a misconception
Yeah.
of these houses are going to be able to solve
No.
the housing problem
Sorry,
for
could
the
I-
younger families.
Could I interrupt really
Sure.
quickly? Do we have to vote to go over 11? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we need a vote. It's a few minutes till
I'll
11.
move that we extend the meeting until midnight.
I'll second.
Yeah, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I
Yeah,
just
no.
wanted to make that point. I don't
Yeah.
want to belabor
Okay.
it, but the point is that I hear from the audience time and time again that these apartments, how much are they going to rent for a two-bedroom? $3,000? $3,500?
What we're doing with each project is trying to get a range of unit sizes so that we get a range of unit costs.
But
A smaller unit's going to be cheaper than a bigger unit.
I understand that, but
Um,
I think that the people that are coming up here for Hope for Alameda and these have a conception that they're going to be getting units that are reasonably priced or lower priced or within the market of what we have in Alameda for comparable size units, and those units are expensive.
Yeah, no. That's,
I mean, you're looking at upwards of $50,000 for somebody to be able to get into a $2,500 unit. After, okay, so $50,000 is $25 an hour, and you look at the labor that's going to be working at some of these things, they're not going to be making $25 an hour on a lot of these jobs. So, it doesn't connect with me, and maybe I'm missing something, and that's what I'm
No.
trying to ask you to explain to me
I
what
don't-
I'm missing.
I don't think you're missing anything, but I guess what we are trying to do is trying to address with housing development in Alameda. We're trying to basically provide more housing opportunities. Are we going to solve the regional or even local housing crisis? No, we're not going to solve it, but we're going to do what we can to try to address it. We're trying to shape each project so that each project has as best we can, has a full range of unit costs or unit types. Some of the low-end stuff is deed restricted for as you know, the very low and low-income people who can meet those criteria. And the waiting lists are, like you said, just years. I mean, the problem is so significant that your chances of getting one of those units and then is really low, but at least there's some units. And then with the rest of the market rate, trying to shape the project so that there's smaller units that will be more, they'll be market rate, but they'll be more affordable than the bigger units. The last thing is, you know, people need to understand, first of all, moratorium on housing, not legal, can't do it. And there's a city council report on file where we explain that whole thing. Not going to happen, can't happen. Number two, state requires that we zone land for residential and a certain amount, so we did it. The idea that you can then tell a property owner that you can't build housing on it is also just not legal. So we have a responsibility as a local agency under state law to do certain things. So getting up here and yelling at the planning board for following state law is not going to be productive. So just everybody needs to understand.
Excuse me, point of order.
Okay.
Yeah, this
Public,
is-
public
it's
comment
fine.
is
Just,
over.
I'll
we're-
stop.
Yeah, it's fine. We're
My
keeping
only
this
point was
discussion up here.
that the cost of the housing is not a simple thing, because these houses, of the people that I've seen that are speaking here, these houses are high-priced houses that we're talking about. And if by any stretch, the incomes that are necessary for these are quite substantial. I'm not talking about no housing or this. I just wanted to make a point of the cost of the housing in this particular market where we're building them.
But Andrew, quickly, to that point, is solving the problem, I mean, I guess I take issue with your, I think you said something incorrectly. It may not be
Likely.
that this project in and of itself is going to solve the problem, but the solution to the problem is to build more housing so that the housing costs come down. And therefore, every project that is approved is a piece of that solution. But there is no one solution in which some city says, I don't know, I'm going to build 50,000 units next year, and bam, we're done.
Right.
The problem we're in is because for 40 years, every city, including ours, but not exclusive of ours, has said, we're special, no more housing here, it can be built somewhere else. Right? So at a certain point in time, we have to understand and take into account that when ABC News 2 nights ago has a report showing hundreds of senior citizens going around a block trying to get senior housing that they can afford, is the result of choices that we have made as a society and as a community for 40 or 50 years. And Brock has a point. Our community is going to change, and there are going to be negative externalities. But at the same time, as that piece on ABC is showing all these people just trying to find a way to live in our area, right? Our parents and grandparents. You can go on Facebook and read, the Alameda Peeps. Somebody posted, hey, what's good about Alameda? And there are 250 different stories of people helping people doing great things, people going to great places. I mean, it's almost enough that you want to kind of, tear up, because you're like, holy cow, we live in a great place today, right? So when we have these terrible traffic, I drive off the island every morning in a bus. I go down the street and whatever else. I'm very aware of the traffic. But the idea that we do nothing because it's not going to solve the problem is a real problem. And it's just kicking the can down the road. And it's the reason that the state is now requiring us to build housing and has taken local control for housing away from us, is because Alameda is not unique. Every city in the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, they've all have areas that say no more housing. So I think we have to be very honest with ourselves about this. Like, this isn't about solving the problem. This is about coming up with solutions that are going to help support solutions to that problem. And we're trying to weigh these things. So I just wanted to, I think it's important to kind of put this in a context in which we're thinking about the people's lives that we're impacting as we're making these decisions. Thank you.
So I'd just like to, so